All right, episode 190. We're 10 away from 200 if you know how to do math. We're going to talk about what every agent should know about property management and what your broker or your brokerage doesn't want you to know. We're going to get started right now.
Never.
Continue this conversation on the air. I'm
There's
totally
words
with
we
him.
don't need to shorten.
Podcast is a totally normal
It's
length
short
word.
enough.
Yeah.
Welcome to the only real estate pod.
I will
God.
just launch something at you
So
from this side of the
annoying.
table.
You did.
I've been listening to Barstool and Schultz, like Andrew Schultz and Rogan and stuff, and they've all just all these dudes started calling podcasts like so and so was on my pod the other day, and I'm like, God damn it!
Can we call it a cast?
You guys
then?
sound like such
All right,
idiots.
welcome to the only real estate cast worth listening to.
I mean, I guess because I haven't heard anybody else say that, I hate it less.
Yeah, let's get that trend going. So, all right, episode 190. Today we have Daina Winn from Homeward Property Management, and she's going to share what every agent should know about property management, probably what your brokerage doesn't want you to know, and why you should be, number one, sending referrals to the right management company, because we're starting to see a lot of investors moving their properties around because they're unhappy with their current management company. There's a lack of service, lack of communication. So we'll do a deep dive in that. But before we get started, today's show is brought to you by the Mortgage Mike. Just go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. That is Mortgage Mike, Michael DeBacker. He's giving that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval with every home loan. He's giving a free home warranty. I was waiting for Brian.
No, I was going to let that sit there
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
really sink in for a
Yeah.
second, just making sure that everybody knew that it was confirmed.
Yeah.
You will get a free home warranty from Theron Smith at Armadillo Home Warranty
Yeah.
when you do a loan with Michael DeBacker.
And if DeBacker doesn't agree to that, Theron will probably just throw it in there.
yeah, just making
go to-
promises for all these guys.
Armadillo.1/Tor, Tore. And then, look, we have Daina here, so we can obviously dogpile on her, who she loves to manage all types of properties. So just go to homewarddfw.com if you've got a landlord that is needing a good property manager here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Good Section 8 deal.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah. I don't think we can say that.
I don't think you're
Yeah, I
supposed
don't
to
think
say
you're
that.
allowed to
I
say
was
that you
trying to
cannot take
draw you
on
off
Section
sides,
8.
and you went
Well,
for
we
it.
are taking one, so it's not
Yeah.
absolutely not
Yeah.
bad.
Well, first off, welcome, Daina. You're so nervous to be on this
Tor Studios.
Tor Studios with Jesse Showalter. So Tor Studios, you want to get on this podcast, you want to get on anybody's podcast, you want good video, just go to Jesse.
If
Jesse
you
will
want to
get
get
you.
on anybody's podcast, call Jesse Showalter with Tor Studios.
Yeah.
He'll get you on any podcast in the world.
Or pods or casts.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I know that Daina was a little hesitant to be on because this is just a very award-winning show by Inman News.
23rd out of 23.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, it wasn't in alphabetical order.
It wasn't.
I think
And
even
there's more
said-
than 23 real estate podcasts. So I don't even know. Like,
Yeah.
I know you're worried about that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we
easily.
we made it.
Top 23 out of 1,000.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. So when we said, look, Daina, you've been doing a lot of phone calls. I know she was on one for an hour yesterday that I was on a three-way call with on her, and an investor who was having some problems with their current management company. And it's a common theme that we are hearing, right, where these management companies promise the world, they promise to take care of their investment, take care of their baby, and they don't answer the phone. They don't treat it like it's theirs, and they just don't seem to care. And so we're like, what better way? Let's do a show. Let's highlight Homeward, and you and what you and the great job you do. We love agent referrals. I mean, that's one of our primary sources of business is agents sending business our way. So go to homewarddfw.com. If you do have a local DFW referral for property management, we would love to take care of them. But kind of walk us through, number one, why did you get in property management? Because most real estate brokerages don't allow it, don't like property management. They say it's the number one way to get sued. And,
We'll see.
Yeah. But, so it shies real estate agents away from this type of business.
I mean, honestly, I just fell into it. It wasn't anything that I planned to do. I came from a banking background where I was on the commercial side of lending and got my real estate license and just kind of fell into it. So because coming from dealing with investors, custom home builders, things of that nature, it just came naturally to me. It wasn't something I planned to do. I was working at a very, very small brokerage. She had about 75 properties. We were coming out of the 07, 08 crash when everybody was putting all their houses up for rent. And she just took on a bunch of them. She needed a property manager. So I got in there. She ran everything on paper. We got in there. We got her on a system where, we actually used the software and things of that. And I just taught myself how to do it through research, taking classes, falling down, messing up.
Every day.
Yes. So it wasn't anything I planned on doing, just something that came very naturally to me.
What do you see? Because, I've been in this industry for almost 20 years now, and I will tell you, up until August 6, 2021, it was, we're not getting into property management. We're not getting into property management. We're not getting into property management. And now that we're into this, I was like, okay, number one, I can see how this is a great business to be in if ran properly.
Yes.
You pick up, the biggest downfall to being a real estate agent is once you make a sale, you're unemployed again. Mm-hmm. The greatest thing about property management is that you have that monthly recurring revenue. And unless you're doing a really, really crappy job where you just have a mass exodus, typically what your next month's income or revenue is going to be. Mm-hmm. And so that is definitely a plus. But we do see probably the reason why there's probably a lot more lawsuits in this is that the service just sucks.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many good management companies there are because I can name off all the shitty ones.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Jesse's got graphics. I think one of the things that she got the most pushback from the three of us on, that she held the line on, that I would be willing to admit, is that she has been kind of unwavering about the client experience part of stuff, right? Like, especially as we've all talked about on this podcast so many times, of like building businesses and how we kind of do it, where it's like, we'll figure some stuff out later, right? Homeward Property Management has grown the exact same way. But one of the things that has been unwavering, and I've gotten to see it because I'm finally jumping into the deal side with Daina, because I took a couple of deals and she was like, "You're gonna have to help out," because she's like, "You made some promises I ain't gonna deal with," right? So having to do that part, but also understanding how much really goes into getting a property ready, getting the owner on board, understanding. I can see why property managers, management companies, cut corners, because there's so much stuff to do that you could probably slide under on these onesie and twosies, owners who don't really know any better. And Daina has been unwavering in not allowing that part to happen at all.
So there's the way that I think about it is what Nick just said. Once when you're on the sales side, I need you to lean back. There, I'm out of focus. You can't see
Hold on, it's about Brian.
We need these for clips later.
Exactly. Opus is not going to if I'm super out of focus. I'm not going to get any screen time on Instagram.
That's why we do this show.
Homeward Property Management, folks.
No, it's like you just said a second ago, right? On the sales side, once you do a deal, you're unemployed,
yes.
Right? But what that also does is it kind of masks how not really on top of things a lot of real estate agents are, because you're only with them for 30 days. The thing about property management, especially when agents get into it and stuff like that, is these are clients for a very long time. And there's a lot of things that you go talk about, the obstacles you go through for 30 days when you're in escrow. You're with somebody for a year just during a lease and taking care of their tenants and stuff like that. And what we're finding is most of the property management companies, as they scale, their systems are not dialed in very well to actually be able to handle problems. The same way that our real estate teams are set up, that when things occur, we have a system for that. We have a process for that. We've built it out over time. That's what sets our real estate organizations a cut above a normal real estate agent who's just kind of by the seat of their pants. The property management side is the same way. You start to take on doors and it's oh my gosh, how do I actually manage this stuff without real SOPs? And I think that when you start to do that, you start to see they hit a real limit on what they can do. And that's why you see so many really bad reviews.
Daina, would you, and I agree, Brian, would you say that most property managers that are out there just, kind of marketing themselves, they're probably just real estate brokers or agents whom fell into management because maybe one of their clients just said, hey, would you manage this property? They sold it to them, or they just were having a conversation and they said, would you manage this for me? So they're like, sure, I'll do it for whatever percent. And then they took on a few more, and they probably have, 5, 10, 15, 20 of them. So they're not a full-fledged scaled operation, and they're still trying to run their sales business. And so their focus is split, and they don't have the true systems in place to handle the communication properly. They probably are not taking and educating themselves on landlord laws that should be updated, and they're probably not even updating their clients, which are the investors, properly. Is that what you probably run into most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we just took on one where it was kind of that situation. She was just handling these 10, 15 properties for these particular investors, and she didn't really know all the ins and outs and rules, and so I get this property on. She sends me the lease, and it's an old lease, not one that we use, and she just scratched out the date from the previous lease. So the previous lease ended on 2020. She just marked it out and put 2023. No initials, no anything. I mean, so she just left these owners like super
exposed.
Open. Yes.
Real
yeah.
catch me
so
if you can move.
Yeah. And so while it's not that hard to manage 10 to 15 properties necessarily, if you one mess up like that, and your owners at the end of the day are the ones that are going to, catch the heat for it, possibly be sued right along with you. And so there's a lot of things that go into it that people don't realize.
That's where it's so similar to just the real estate side of business. Is there's so many things that you can do throughout a real estate transactions to kind of leave your clients in the wind if you don't have your stuff dialed in. And the property management side of this, of course, exposes you 1,000 times more. I think there's so many other things as far as disclosures and documents to sign and inventory and condition forms and stuff like that. The one thing that I want to acknowledge is I'm not really 100% sure one person could start a property management business. Like when I look at the table, like I was just doing this while we were all sitting here, and I was itemizing what everybody kind of does. Now that we're starting to find some synergy, because in true Tor podcast form, right? Like we're at 161 properties and still figuring things out, right? Like still adding systems and adding stuff in there. And it is 4 really highly motivated and like kind of directioned people in what their role in this should be. And there are still, we still have to have weekly meetings, discussions, right? Like figuring all of this stuff out. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would attempt to do property management for less than like a scalable amount of properties, because that sounds 10 or 15 doesn't even sound worth it. If that'd be all you're doing.
It's just like a real estate agent, right? Like we can admit, most real estate agents don't run a real estate business. They sell houses. They hopefully they sell enough to make some money. But like running a real estate business is expensive. It has to be highly systematized. A lot can go wrong, right? And so to expand to selling, from selling 5 houses a year to 150 houses a year, now you're like running a business, and there's like a whole lot more involved in that. And it's the same with I think agents that manage properties. It's like they don't run a property management business. They might manage a few properties, but that's the only way you can make money doing it, is like either have to have enough properties that there's like a lot of revenue and you can build systems, or you have to stay small enough that you don't need any systems, because like it will start to, you're right, in true Tor fashion, right? Dana yelled at me today. She's like, why did this guy automatically get denied for a lease because of pet restrictions? He doesn't even have pets. Brian. And I was like, because I didn't uncheck that lightning bolt icon that automatically sends the denial email, and my conditional logic was wrong. I'm sorry. And so we just picked up the phone and called the guy. But like, you have to be able to build systems to manage things at scale. It's pretty complicated.
Dana, let me ask you this question, right? Because this kind of parlays into what Brian and Matt just said, is that why do agents start this? They probably, again, their client probably asked them to. Do you feel that agents kind of do this? There's a couple, in my opinion, there's a couple of reasons. Number one is greed. I think they're greedy, and they're just trying to look out for themselves and not the best interest of their client. And when it comes to investing and turning this into a rental, this is a different beast in itself. Two, are they also are agents afraid that if they hand this client over, then that that property manager and that management company is now going to build that relationship, and now they lose that potential referral source. And three, I also think that they're doing a disservice to their client because
they have no clue what they're getting
they don't
themselves
know what they're
into.
doing.
not even just that, and not even just that part. But what I will tell you is that I guarantee you they're probably not analyzing the rents every single year because, I own close to probably around 300 of them. Brian and I own a 96-bed student housing facility. And what I am seeing now, and as I get more dialed into this business, is that you have to look at rent growth every year because guess what goes up? Property insurance,
Taxes?
and property taxes, and the cost of maintenance.
Maintenance
Yes.
utilities.
Yeah.
And so you start factoring that in. Your property manager should be the one that helps with structuring that.
You guys know water gets more expensive every year?
Yes, right. So out of that, what are you seeing? Why agents are probably just trying to keep this? You kind of shook your head against greed.
I don't think it's greed. I think it's the fear, like you were talking about, where I'll start with this too. A lot of agents don't know anything about property management or even know that it kind of exists, right? They just lease their properties for their investors because they help them buy the house or they help them sell all their houses. So they don't even know how it works or what it does. So they're leasing them for them and then turning them back over to the owners. And so I think that they feel obligated to do it even if they're not necessarily wanting. I don't think it's greed.
That's
I
kind
think
of
it's I think it's a fear of losing the client.
That's what it
or
is.
a fear of having to do it for the client even though you don't really want to, or you don't really know what you're doing.
It's missed
but they
opportunity.
count on you, so you're just going to go ahead and do it.
You're not
for
going
them.
to say no to money.
It's missed opportunity. Like if we can admit that most agents are selling less than 7 or 8 houses a year, we can also admit that most agents probably aren't bringing in like the funds that they want to just financially. So there's an opportunity to 10% of some $4,000 rent, that's $400 a month, and then I get lease ups on them. I had this exact thing happen to me early in my career with like this fourplex in Garland, right? This exact thing happened. The guy bought it. He was like, "Hey, who's going to property manage?" I was like, "I could probably do that for you. My mom's a property manager, right? Like, I know how to
My
do
dad's
this."
a
right?
pilot. I could probably land this. Get out of the way.
Move
I'm
over,
landing.
guy. And then what ends up happening, right? The 2 tenants that were already placed did amazing because they had been there forever, but there was no rent increase on my part. I wasn't advising a rent increase. The one tenant I placed, we ended up having to evict, and she was flushing trash bags down the toilet to try and F with the freaking landlord or the owner because she was so over everybody's shit, right? Like, I was the exact person you're talking about. I was well-meaning and completely out of my element and making it worse for everybody involved.
Yeah, that's where we're probably seeing. I still think it's greed a little bit, but no one wants.
No,
to
I definitely wanted the $400. I definitely wanted the $400 a month. Like the $400 a month mattered at the time.
Yeah, I
Like,
think there's
did.
a difference between greed and like not turning down what you think might be easy money.
Yeah,
until you get into it and you're like, oh
You
shit.
just have no idea the steps that are involved, and you're just like, oh, I thought I was just like had to like send you a check every month and take my 10% out of it.
Yeah, it's just like you don't care who's flying the plane until that you're up in the air, and then all of a sudden you drop 10 feet because of turbulence. And you're like, holy shit, your head's about to hit the fan, and then
We gotta have Diesel back on
Yes.
to just do pilot stories.
yes,
He was not a part of this one, but it was very well known in the airline industry that on one really so there's what's called
he was the one. Someone was drunk, and then they did coke to level themselves out, and then they flew the plane upside down, and then
yeah, that was based on a true story.
Yeah.
There's like one famous story. There's a commercial flight that had like nobody. This is years ago. It's either a ferry flight. A ferry flight is when they fix a plane and they need to test it, or is it an empty commercial flight? Can't remember. And the pilots try to do a barrel roll, which is, by the way, like a big no-no.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't do it.
not in those planes.
Yeah, and they're just not set up for it. And like what famously I think happened, and he'll have to confirm this, he might be listening, is like you could do it in an airliner, but nothing's bolted down. So like all the dishes in the back smashed and stuff like that, and like there's just a bunch of stuff they didn't account for. you know, because everything's bolted down
Yeah.
on a fighter jet. But that was like a real thing, and they got super fired.
Yeah, but you don't care who's flying the plane until you start experiencing something. You're like, I hope this pilot knows how to get me on the ground.
MD-80, he's
Yeah.
talking about it right now. See,
Yeah.
it's been so much fun growing up with him. He's got the best stories.
Yeah. But it's the same thing like Kelderman just said, where he's like, he took it on. But if you have to go do evictions, I will tell you right now, with all my stuff, I can't tell you how to do an eviction. I let my people, you know, I'd let Daina, I'd let Duncan handle all that. And, you know, I'm not experienced in that part. And so ultimately, that's the biggest thing is these agents take these on and they're setting their clients up for failure. And ultimately, when you know people like Daina take them over, it's probably a sense of relief for those clients. But you know what the number one question that agents ask when they send it over?
Am I going to get it back
Yes,
when they want to sell?
when they sell. And I'm like,
It's a great topic to dwell on for a
and
second.
I'm like, guys, while I understand you asking that question, let's worry number one is that either you probably sold them this investment property, right? And let's hope that you did a good enough job, because the number one thing that we see is agent selling an investment property that doesn't cash flow.
Yeah.
And you're worried about getting this property back when it sells.
We were just talking to a friend of ours who runs a similar sized property management company. I think this person's mindset was kind of the same. We had this exact conversation. And the answer to that question always should be, like, I don't know. Are you? Meaning, like, it's not, I was just going to put it out there. Like, client service should be a two-way street. And it's your job at the end of it. It's our job to take great care of your clients that you refer us. And it's your job to nurture and manage your pipeline to build your real estate business. Like, we never, ever solicit any of our referrals to list with us, ever.
Correct.
Like, we never would do that.
And we would give it back if the client
If the client,
asks, yes.
absolutely, right? What tends to happen sometimes is when they want to go to sell, we try to give it back, and they go, we don't even know who that person is anymore.
Yep.
We haven't heard from them in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so the question around, like, do I get to list the property if they sell? I don't know. Are you still going to do your job? Because I'm not going to send a client back that's like, I don't want to work with Jeff. We haven't talked to him
Yeah.
forever, and he's got a drinking problem. No.
Yeah,
whatever.
no,
Right? Like,
yeah, but then that's the biggest thing, right, Dan? Is like you start to have these agents ask that question. Of course, we want to give it back to them if the client is open to it. We have to do what's in the best wishes for the client and their overall, you know, what their overall decision is.
Yeah, I mean, this exact same thing happened to me. Like, I had a client, worked with him for years, talked to him, decided he wanted to sell. I said, okay, we'll get it sold for you. You know, we'll get it on the market. You know, we're really close. I'd help remodel the house, like all kinds of stuff, right? Very knowledgeable of the house. Agent that brought the property in 5 years ago, 6 years ago, however long it was, wanted it back. And so I went to the client and said, hey, you know, such and such wants you to, you know, list the property since, you know, they brought you in. And that was the exact thing was, I haven't talked to her in like 7 years.
Yeah.
And so it became a whole thing, and it left a very, very bad taste in the client's mouth. So that's what I tell agents all the time. Like, you need to maintain that relationship. If a client comes to me and says, I want, you know, Lisa Smith to sell my house, I'll be like, okay. You know, and Lisa Smith was one, I'm fine with that. But if they come to me and they say, you know, I want to sell my house, say, okay, do you want to go back to the agent, you know, to Lisa Smith over there? And he says, I didn't talk to Lisa in like 4 years. So I do tell agents when they ask me that question, you need to maintain the relationship if that's your expectation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it from you. I'm not going to try to steal it, but it's also on you to maintain that relationship.
So agents, if you're listening to this and picking it up, don't stop doing your follow-up.
Just always be in contact with
Yeah,
the people.
this is when you refer it. By the way, it's still, you should still treat it like it's your client, and you do your normal check-ins. You do your normal. Hey, how's it going? How's it
Daina
going?
doing?
Yeah, I just want to get feedback. How is Homeward doing? Should I send more people to homewarddfw.com?
Give an actionable scripts right here on the show.
And ultimately you do your monthly or quarterly or yearly check-in, and I
Well, you know when the lease ends.
Yes.
Like, here's the thing is we're talking out of all these like variables that we have to attach to leads that came in through Facebook. Like, you know when the lease ends.
Yes.
Like, you referred them. Like, hey, Homeward Property Management did an awesome job. The property market contract, cool. When's the lease up? Awesome. And like, at the very least, follow up 9 months out from that
Save yourself
day.
a reminder. That's about it.
So I mean that's a great point, and So, at Homeward, we will refer it back to you. We're not here to keep the clients. We're here to make sure that the client is well taken care of. They're in the best position to win and ultimately to grow their investment assets. And you agents should also be trying to find them more investment properties, because guess what? That's commission for you. Then it's a great symbiotic relationship between you, the client, and us in Homeward DFW. Mm-hmm. So, what else should agents know when interviewing property management companies? Because I know there's some out there that don't answer the phone.
Yes.
I know there's some out there, if you send a referral, it just goes into a black hole. I don't understand that. But what should agents know when maybe interviewing property management companies to refer their clients to?
I think it's just a matter of finding out kind of how they operate at their core. So, for me and the way that I run this ship is that, communication is key with everyone, both owners and tenants. So I think communication with an agent that's trying to refer you business is very important too. So and then ask for your client the questions that your client is going to ask. What are your fees? What is your maintenance process? Do you handle the evictions?
Don't charge junk fees.
What is your tenant criteria for your screening? What's your process? Asking all those same questions that your client would ask.
Yeah.
So
doing the upfront due diligence, and look, Brody Mulligan, you're only going to get a shout out if you send Daina Winn from homewarddfw.com a referral.
There you go.
Yeah, this is live, buddy.
This is not AI.
No.
I did watch an AI. I was trying to prove a point yesterday, and I just there's a guy who they go on, they just ask Joe Rogan AI a bunch of random questions, and he answers. The cadence is off. It's obviously not real, but it is so close. It is his voice. It is his movements. Yeah. And now that probably only works for somebody who has a ton of podcast content out there. Yeah. But I do wonder if we should do an episode where we just have AI ourselves up there, and then we have people submit questions that we ask our AI selves. We have enough recorded content for AI to be able to figure our shit out, I bet.
I would ask it, what kind of management would Daina do?
I wonder what kind of AI billionaire idea it'd come up with.
Yeah.
That would be the most wild ass one we probably
I
had.
think it's I would ask it only questions like how Daina, the wildest ones Daina would manage, or Theron, all the free warranties Theron's going to give out.
Let me ask you a real question online. Are we implementing AI anywhere in our property management business? Because here's something I was experiencing today, right? Like I was actually trying to write a property description, and I was I copy and pasted the client's list of upgrades, right, that they sent me, which is way more than 1,000 characters, which all the MLS can hold. And then I wrote my little description. And I said, take all of this and make it better, right?
1,000 characters.
And yeah, and it wrote used the word boast 3 times.
Still not liking it.
I know. Yeah. I'm not either. But then I had it write I turned it loose and had it write a much longer, almost flyer style description or something you'd find on a QR code. It did really, really well in that aspect when you turned it loose. Yeah. So I'm just curious because I'm a part of this company. I have no idea what are we using AI for right now?
Our listing descriptions have definitely gotten better.
I can only imagine.
And I have used it recently in response to tenants that are being, let's just say, difficult.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see and play with that, to give back more of the politically correct.
That is one of the fun things about AI.
Response rather than what I really want to say.
You can say, write it like a professional email now.
Yeah. What would you say to a tenant that says,
Actually,
So, I like that.
You guys don't know this because I don't want Daina to get all mad at me and freaked out, but we're working on some AI conversational stuff in the background that could take over a lot of our tenant interaction, I think, in the future.
So you could say that Homeward is a technology.
Well, what's going to happen is instead
Are we
of
rolling out that we're a tech company at the next conference
tonight?
Are we a tech company now, guys?
Tonight at the Homeward dinner.
When you click the button to submit a request, you're going to start talking with somebody before you get to the actual request portal. And
pre-IPO is available at your mom's house.
Yeah. I do want to backtrack. Property management. This all started with Matt talking about a video. Matt is the kind of guy that always brings exhibits to an argument to try and prove his point.
I will. All I can use is my personal experience to prove anything I say.
What are you seeing right now from a like from a landlord, right? So if you've got your investor clients right now, and we're managing 161 properties at the moment. What is your thought process of where rents are going, demand's going in the next 6 to 12 months?
So I will say that I see rents stabilizing across the board, based on what days on market, the type of applications coming in, the quality of the product that the tenants are now expecting, which is sometimes challenging to get across to owners. But I don't see, they're not doing anywhere near what they did the last few years.
Sounds like talking to sellers.
Yeah, we're seeing, yeah, I know, it's very, very
It's
similar.
the same
Yeah.
thing, just
It's the same, like you were talking
different.
about, like rents going up. Well, I have to balance between if I go up too high and this tenant leaves, it's now going to cost you more money because now I have to lease it. It's going to cost you, that lease commission, and balance that out with getting you enough money to help cover your property taxes and your insurance, but also keep the tenant in place so you don't have any vacancy loss.
that math is where people's brain breaks. I am having these conversations, and I've done rental properties in the past just as onesies and twosies for my clients, but never really managed them, right? But like, that is where people's like, if okay, I get you want 2,500. Understand, 1 month of you not getting 2,500, if we could have gotten 2,300, you just took an L for the whole year on that month, right? Like that $200 you just lost per month. Had we just gotten somebody in there at 2,300, you wouldn't have lost that 2,500 to begin with for the extra 30 days it took you. And that math makes some people's. We have one right now where the guy just wanted to go up a few hundred extra dollars. Like if we even have 1 month where you don't have a tenant in here, that extra few $100s is negated for the whole year.
Sure.
It's negated for the whole year, though.
You do have to worry, though. So I agree with you. It just depends on how, if the market could support 25 and it takes a little while longer. Because what you don't want to do from the investor side is put someone at 2,300. Now you've got a $200 a month gap loss over the span of that. Then you're going to try to increase rents on them. Right, and
Sure.
more than likely they're going to move out.
So wait, are you telling, just because I'm understanding
Yeah.
this, would you legitimately rather over a 12-month period, let's say it took you 60 days to rent the place and you lost 2 months of rent at $2,500, that's $5,000 of potential lost rent, right? To lease it out just for the next 12 months at $2,500 as opposed to just leasing it for $1,200 to $2,300 a month and not losing that $2,400 to begin with?
Right, so
There's a lot of variables.
I know,
That
but it's
depends
just-
on the investor.
Well, it depends
Like,
on the actually it depends on way more than that.
Yeah. Well.
It actually depends on something as simple as like where you at in your amortization schedule. Because if you're paying mostly principal, then you're actually not losing just too much. Like if you have more principal pay down than interest. Like if you just bought the property, then no, because you're just wasting that money. It's going almost entirely towards interest. If you own the property for more than 15 years, maybe let's just say, and you're heavily principal based, then you have a little bit more latitude because you're still paying the balance.
A lot of my
down.
conversation with people who bought their house 3 years ago
Yeah,
and now
like,
need to rent it. So,
By the way,
right, yeah.
you normally will with people who just bought the investment
Yeah.
property, right?
Well,
So, like, yeah, there's a lot of variables.
That makes
I would
sense.
always say, like, regardless, there's usually a happy medium, and there's a really good argument to be made for like what the rent should be, and I think that we're not doing that as a industry right now. We're seeing this on the multifamily side too. We're looking at deals right now where like the operating, like the offering memorandum will have rent growth that is just like, dude, if you had this percentage of rent growth for the next 5 years, everybody in your complex would have to make $500,000 a year just to live here. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
That's simple math.
Doesn't
right?
even work.
It doesn't work at all. But
Yeah.
we do this as agents too. We're like, you can probably get 3,000. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
and this is what drives Dana crazy. Is the three of ours is we'll figure it out when we get there, right? Like let's just go
Just
ahead
say
and
yes.
we'll just run. Let's say yes, and then we'll just figure it out when we get there. And she's like, "That's not how I do stuff." And I'm like, "Well, then I'll field all the calls for this one." Because I already told him we could do it, and it's too fucking late.
but that's the big part is like, again, if you look at that gap, right? So you look at the gap versus you get someone in there just to put a body in there,
Yeah.
and then you start to push rents on them. They decide to move out. Now you've got more lease commission.
You got release,
Then
yep.
you've got make readies.
Yep.
And so when you start to factor in the lease commission and the make readies, because that's a future investor, that's a future landlord problem. You're like, you know what?
Sure.
That's future landlord problem. That's future Matt's problem. I'm not worrying about that today. Let's just get a body in here. That's future Matt's problem. Then you start to actually do the math on it. It's like, oh shit, I could have waited 2 months to get to that 2,500.
Right.
And So you have to kind of
Gosh, it's such a gamble, man. I'm just so
No.
conservative when it comes to stuff.
And I
It's
get it.
so
This is part of
scary.
the reason we do our inspections too, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm going in, and so that way I can come to the client and just be like, okay, look, here's what you could get in rent if it was fixed up. So you're looking at, we're going to push them out. Now you got to do flooring, countertops, painting, like all this stuff. But you're now going to get $400 more in rent than what you're getting now. And so we walk through that process of what makes the most sense. Do we raise the tenant $100 and wait till next year and do it then? Or do we go ahead and do it now and you're getting that extra, $400 or $500 a month, but it's going to cost you $7,000-$8,000 to do the work that needs to be done.
Correct. Yeah. So it's and that's what a good management company should do.
Yes.
Yes, a good one.
Yes.
Like Homeward DFW.
Yes.
One of the magazine's top rated management companies.
One of the magazines, bro.
Some magazine out there.
Some magazine out there has rated us as one of the top ones. Yeah.
What would you say to people looking to get into the property management space?
Send your referrals to Homeward Property Management. No.
So this is, we've done 36 minutes of a commercial for Homeward, which we should, but what if we were just starting right now? What advice would you give somebody like, I want to be like Daina?
You have to be very patient. You have to be able to multitask. You have to not take things personally when people yell at you and get, for usually tenants, but, sometimes landlords. So it does, I'm not going to lie, it does take a special kind of person. You have to come from...
There's a reason Dana's the forward-facing person of this company, and we
you
are
have
not.
to come from a place of service.
Yes.
You have to have a heart of service, because that's what this business is. You're serving not only your landlords, but you have to give a certain amount of respect to your tenants, right? This is their home. This is where they live. So it's like being able to be that person that can work on with both parties where everyone is happy, at least 90%.
Do you think most management companies believe in giving great service to the tenants?
No. They're just the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think that does? How do you think that hurts the investor landlord client?
Love that.
It's going to affect how the tenant takes care of the property. It's going to affect whether they stay from 1 year to the next. That's probably the two biggest things, money-wise. Yeah, I would just say how they care for the property, because they feel like nobody else cares. Why should I care?
Yep.
I'm big on how you present the property on the market, and I think that affects the type of tenant you get. And so if you don't present the product well, then you're not going to get a good tenant in there. And at the end of the day, it's going to cost your owner a lot of money, because they're going to have to go in there and do a lot of work.
One of the things I think you do at an amazingly high level is that we do, and this is something that I feel comfortable saying, and every time I sit down with somebody trying to talk to them about home, we do not place bad tenants. We would rather
knock on wood.
No, I mean I'm not saying that
your eviction record shows it.
I'm not saying
my
you don't.
entire career.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't have to scale and at some point somebody didn't slip between the cracks. But I called Daina today about a property. She's like, yeah, we had one tenant application come through. They didn't match our criteria, and so that was rejected. Right, that does make a huge difference, because I wasn't oblivious that time I did property management. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. That lady seemed fine. She was a single mother, I thought I was doing all the right things. I didn't know she was eventually going to start flushing shit down the toilet to try to F with people. I had no clue she had that capability in her, right? It didn't show up anywhere, but I wouldn't have known what to look for anyways, even if it had.
Well, and I'll just say that too. I do take on a lot of properties that agents have placed tenants in, where they've just leased the property.
Yep.
If you don't know what you're doing, it's really not a good idea. If you don't have the systems in place, to pull credit from a reliable source, to pull background checks from across the country, to, how do you verify, income with not only pay stubs, but calling an employer, all that stuff.
You mean the red light, green light that my association uses as a credit bureau report isn't enough to verify? That's what I was going. I was like, oh, they're green, bro. It's good.
They've got zero culpability.
And I think that's what happened on this one. I step into it, and find out after the fact, after this tenant's gone in there and trashed the place, she had 2 evictions on her record. And it was
oh, geez.
why was she even put in
Why
the
was she
property
even
in the
in
first
there?
place?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just, so I will say for agents, like, I'm always open. Like, you can always call me with any questions. I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm not giving away my trade secrets.
Yeah.
But I am going to tell you why you should just let me do it and pay you.
It's just hard to do. Again, I'll go back to there's 4 of us
Yeah.
figuring out the mechanisms to this thing. And like dude, like you could probably do a couple, but here's the thing you always have to ask yourself as an agent: is doing a couple going to be enough worth of your time where you're going to devote all of your attention to it?
No.
And let's just be honest, you're not.
No.
Right? It's just not going to be. It's going to be too much work at some point.
If we could rewind to
Especially right now.
38 minutes, what you said should be the number one reason why any landlord, any agent, and you, Brian, you said, look, this has been a 36-minute show of just advertising Homeward. It's not, right? Yes, it is subliminally. But that 38-minute mark just showed the reason why this management company has grown as quickly as it has, because you do want to present your best light to the tenant, because the tenant is the one taking care and the one living in that landlord investor's house, whom is either going to destroy it or treat it like it's their own.
Yeah, 100%.
And if they destroy it, guess who pays for it? The landlord does, not anybody else. Comes out of the landlord's pocket.
And if you've ever had a shitty property manager as an investor, you realize how bad that hurts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you're wondering, oh, I'm paying you to manage my properties. I have crap tenants in there, and I'm not making any money. In fact, it seems like all I'm doing is getting invoice. I thought this was supposed to be freedom for me. I thought this was the way to build wealth. I thought I was supposed to sit back and every month I could just get my check and be able to go and just go vacation. And it's not.
It's not happening.
Yeah, a lot of sleepless, stressful, nights that are uncalled for because they just chose to either use a cheap property management company, or they just went with an agent who didn't vet the right person.
Meanwhile, Dana's never been on a vacation. Doesn't even get on planes.
Well, because she's afraid. Because Tom's not flying. Diesel's not flying.
Exactly.
She wants to get in the barrel rolls.
Okay, Dana, I have a hypothetical for you. So it's not hypothetical. This did happen to me. I didn't know who was right in this situation. I got evicted once.
Are you the asshole?
Have either of you been evicted?
Never been evicted.
Let me tell you what happened. I was living at these apartments.
You were in college.
I was not in college.
Oh.
Last year.
Right? I was a young single man on my own, living in these apartments in a really nice area.
They said it was all inclusive.
And okay, these bed bugs started coming through my outlets.
Wait, those aren't bed bugs, are they?
Yeah.
They come through outlets?
Dude, they come through everything. Bro, they're like indestructible.
What do they look like?
They're gross. They're about the size of ants, but they look like roaches. They're like
If I knew that you had
ant-sized
bed
I
bugs,
thought you
bro,
can
I'd-
really
yeah.
see bed bugs.
No, you can
roaches.
see
Oh, you
them.
can see it.
Or they're like little fleas.
Yeah, they're like
No, they're bigger than
They're a
fleas.
little bigger, but
Yeah.
they look like fleas.
They're like fleas
Yeah.
on steroids.
Yeah, they're like they're yoked.
Okay, so they're coming through your outlet.
Anyway, so
Yeah, look
I
at
it looks like a flea, but it's very
Gross.
big.
Yeah.
It's much.
I wouldn't be friends with you if I knew you had bed bugs.
No, 100%. I wouldn't be either. This was years ago, guys. This was like a decade ago. I'm over it. It's been like 10 years. And
You never get rid of bed bugs.
They just
Well,
follow
here's the
you
thing.
everywhere you go.
Here's part of the story. You can if you throw everything you own away, basically your couch, your bed, everything, right? So this happens, and I'm like, I wake up. This is happening. I see that it's coming through the outlet from my neighbor's apartment. They're like coming through the electrical outlet. I don't know how they're not getting electrocuted. Don't really know how outlets work, but regardless, that is clearly the source. So this happens on like the 29th of the month. I immediately lose my mind. I call in a service request. I go and I buy like every bed bug thing you can from Home Depot. I am like meticulously. I throw away my couch. I threw away my entire bed. I get rid of like half my clothes. I probably should have been donating that. I need to just do some
I
spring
don't think you
cleaning
can
anyway.
donate it with bed bugs.
Nah, I mean, I needed to minimize my closet anyway. There's a lot of Zumba stuff in there, and anyway. So I'm full of I'm freaking out. Like I don't like Dana has been to my house a lot. I don't like anything messy, and so I put in the request, and nobody comes. They never come. They get the like automated response, but they never come. And then on like the first of the next month, which is 2 days later, I'm like, So I put another, because I go and stay at my parents' house. They welcome me in, even though I'm tainted.
I would not let you.
I
in.
know.
You should be on leper.
So
Is it Leprosy Island?
I rip everything out of my apartment. Me and Diesel throw my bed away. He one-mans it into the dumpster. And I go stay with them. And so I need to like get my apartment back at some point. And I put in another request on the 1st of the month, which is like the 2 days later. Hear nothing back. I call them on the 2nd. And I'm like, hey, I have bugs. And by the way, so do the neighbors. So probably does the entire building. And on the phone, they're like, I'm looking it up. Hold, please. And she's doing like, whatever. And she's like, oh, yeah, like we got your request, but you're delinquent on your rent. You haven't paid yet. So we can't process your request. I was like, well, but I put it in.
On the 29th.
Yes, bro. This is a real story that happened. And they're like, well, you have to pay your rent and your $400 late fee now. And I was like, well, I'm not paying anything until you send somebody out. And they're like, well, you're not going to send somebody out until you pay. We get in this like Mexican standoff. I'm not kidding at all. And I'm like, guys, I don't even want you to pay for my furniture that I threw away. Like, I don't want any of that. I just want you to come and spray. And they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, so I politely, I go to the leasing office myself and I record it on my phone in my pocket. The conversation does not go well at all. Anyway, I walk out basically just saying like, F you guys, go ahead and evict me if you're going to be like that. All I wanted was to pay. I was like, I will pay my rent right now if you just send somebody over. And they're like, our system doesn't even work that way. You have to pay your late fees. You have to pay everything. And I'm like, guys.
This is where Brian began.
It was, yeah. This is like my origin story.
You should ask them if they were charging the bed bugs rent.
And I was like, someday I'm going to start a property management company myself.
And we're going to fight against bed bugs.
Yeah, exactly. So I leave. And I go back to my apartment to try and clean out the rest of my stuff that I left there. And the constable shows up and like gives me an eviction thing. And I was like, fine, whatever. So I just left. And you know what? I'm going to say this now because I'm free and clear. Every apartment complex I applied at for the rest of my life afterwards, I applied that day somewhere else before it hit my record and stayed there for like 4 years. And then every other place for the next 3 years after that was only in my wife's name because I couldn't be on the application. And now it's been more than 7 years, and it's like it never happened.
Does it drop off?
It wasn't even because they filed the collections, but my lease is almost over anyway. Nick was like $1,200 in collections, and I refused to ever pay.
Look, I understand that. I've done that with medical bills.
I was like, I'm not doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
Who was wrong there?
You were, Brian. You brought the bed bugs in.
I did. No one ever held the neighbors accountable for any. I don't know what they were doing over there.
It probably has bed bugs in your lease, right?
It probably has something about bed bugs. Yes, they should have treated just for the building as a whole, but there is a clause typically in a lease, not all the time, but typically, that says if you haven't paid your rent, then they are not required to make any repairs.
Dang it, Nick.
You were wrong.
I was wrong.
But was I morally wrong?
What happens when someone
You
brings...
still need to pay your rent. You live there.
What happens when someone brings bed bugs into the house? Who's responsible for paying for the...
Here was my argument. Let's
Brian.
hit you with some law here. Hold on. Ask your question. In the background, pull up Texas bed bugs uninhabitable living environment.
What the bed bugs have...
But there's no way to prove where the bed bugs came from. They could have come
pictures.
from you.
I took a video of them coming through the outlet, Jesse. I had a video of them coming through the outlet. They were just marching. They were carrying kegs over. They were...
But they don't... How do you know that you weren't the source?
I brought them into the outlet?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were just going back and forth.
Like that was just like their
Yeah, you brought
bridge.
in a couple, and that was their way to get to the other side.
Like that was the other half.
Maybe that was their
duplex for
neighbors.
them. Okay.
Yeah, they moved into your apartment. You brought them in, but they're like, "Hey, this place is really cool." So they told their other bedbug friends. So they moved into the next door apartment, and so the referrals. They got a referral, and
I got a referral.
Yeah,
fee.
and look, you got evicted. They still got to stay there.
Honestly, if anybody won, it was the bedbugs. They're probably still living there now.
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
So I will say, in one of our properties, a lady who'd been living there for a while, she hit us up and she's like, "Hey, there's bed bugs, and we expect you to pay for it." I said, "No, I'm not paying for bed bugs."
No, that's what I was trying to say, Dana. That was my argument. Is I had already paid my rent for that month on the 20th. It was this carried over into the next month.
Yeah.
They should have treated. Yes, they were being. I'm not.
I don't
lie.
think
they were. I would not have done it that way. I would have been like, okay, we'll get someone out to treat, but you can't hold your rent hostage either. So
Yeah.
let's both be reasonable people.
Yeah. And pay your late fees, Brian. In fact, you should go back and pay them now.
I probably will.
Yeah.
But that's apartments for you.
Yeah.
Let's just
so.
go buy the complex.
But I would tell you is that, so we had a lady come in and say the same thing. Was like, I was like, you've lived here for 3 years. It did not have bed bugs.
I actually called Matt Aycock after I left that conversation. I asked him what I should do, and he said, you should just continue to work super hard and then go buy that complex.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Check out deepbluere.com.
Yeah.
And let's go buy that complex.
This is a full-on infomercial and everything. But I will say, like, there are some rules about bed bugs. It's kind of in that gray area. And I was like, look, you know, in the property that I own, I was like, you've been here 3 years. You've just now complained about bed bugs. You've also brought in a new person, a new roommate, within the last 30 days. So I think that there's a correlation between that new person and bed bugs. Yeah. So you're going to be the one that pays for it.
I was doing a lot of drum circles at the time, Nick.
Yes. Yeah.
Bringing a lot of dudes in.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. I'm just saying yes, and I don't know drum circles, dudes, and lots of guys. I have no idea. But you know what I do know about? I know about Mortgage Mike. Mortgage Mike will get you that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval for all your lending needs. USDA, VA, FHA, conventional, maybe hard money. I don't even know. Buy before you sell. He's got that. He's got a cash program. He's got a new cash program that's out there. And but you should hit him up, Mortgage Mike. So it's
Payday
just
loans.
Mortgage Mike of Texas.com. I've always wanted to start a payday loan company.
I know. You
I've always wanted a payday loan company. That's Homeward Payday Loans. You can't pay your rent? Go to Homeward Payday Loans, and we will. Yes, HomewardPaydayLoans.com. Coming soon to you.
What is if regular conventional mortgage rates have like more than doubled in the last year? What is the increase in payday loan rates?
Well, I think there's a cap, right? Isn't there? I think it's based on prime because is it called usury laws or?
Yeah, usury.
Usury. It's kind of all the tomato.
Usury laws.
So.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I've always wanted to start a payday loan company. I actually was interviewing. Loans typically cost 400% annual interest with payday loans. The finance ranges from $15 to $30
Here's the thing is, bro. I'll eat the giant shit sandwich on this. That's the cost of getting yourself so far in the tank that you need large amounts of money right now to pay everyday bill. It sucks. And should the number be lower on that? Yeah, it should. Guess what? Then go find somebody else who can loan you $2,000 right now.
It is supposed to kind of be a syntax.
It is. That is a monster number. And it's like, dude,
it doesn't look good on paper.
It does not. Those are the worst loans. And look, like there's a reason why 400%. God. Obviously, like I don't think the problem is that. But do you know a payday loan place that doesn't have a physical space? This is like the mattress, like the mattress store thing. Like
I almost got a job at one.
Is there an online payday loan place, or do you have to? Like they will have physical locations.
Yeah, and they have that. They got that triple wall glass that you just talk through the microphone on. Yeah. I was really intrigued by that business model because I'm like, it's either that or start a pawn shop, and I don't really like pawn shop stuff.
Well, you got to know what the stuff's worth to be able to be good at the pawn shop thing.
Yeah.
The money, you're just like, look. The payday loan thing is like the bond deal, though.
Yeah.
The majority of those are not being. What you're really paying is the tax for everybody who doesn't pay their shit back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's really what you're
That's
paying.
why they got to be so high.
The bail bond is so expensive because most people just like not most people, but a lot of people get bonded out. Probably don't really figure that out, right? Like,
wait, on payday loans, can you send a bail bondsman after them?
I don't know.
Like that's the thing is like I'm sure
like
they're
dog.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like I'm sure they're recourse loans, but if you don't have any net worth, what is your recourse?
That's what I'm saying. So you're putting up zero collateral. You need money right now. And I'm supposed to hand you cash without just like absolutely piss pounding you? Like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Fair. What was you just said that you almost? What's the craziest almost job you ever took?
I mean, probably that one.
Probably that one.
Yeah, but at the time, the reason I didn't take that job is right when I was in college. I didn't take it because there was a lot of robberies happening at those, and I'm like, I don't want to get held up.
Yes, an S load of cash, like right there.
Yeah, I don't think probably today. Do you still give cash at those? You probably can't give a bank account because they're
no. Because here's the thing is, I will tell you, payday. If you're going to hit a payday loan, there's a very good chance you're overdrawn on other shit too. So you don't have a place to go deposit a check in the first place. It has to be cash.
I almost became a prison guard.
Really?
I would feel like that they would actually get their routing and account number to put the money into, because that is also how they receive their payment back.
Maybe, but I'm telling you, like, what's the benefit to me if I'm flat broke and I'm going in and willing to pay your 400%, and I've just got to keep shit together for
Maybe you
fucking
give them,
30 days,
maybe
right?
you give them your payday loan, branded
and you're
credit card.
and you're overdraft
Yeah.
on your bank account by $1,000,
Right.
right?
That's the way to do it.
yeah,
That's
then
way
you could,
more secure.
then you just turn it off.
You can just cut it off whenever.
yeah,
Yeah, that
might be
makes
the way
sense.
they
It's
do
probably
it.
cash, because that's the only reason
I
I didn't
think
take
it's
the
cash,
job
dude.
is because there was a string of robberies that were happening. I interviewed like 3 times at I can't remember the name of it. It was over on Parker and Custer, Parker and Elmo.
That's crazy.
And because I just was really intrigued by that business model.
Yeah.
And
Called like Cash 24.
yeah,
They're all like
Yeah.
a variation of the same quick loans with a K.
yeah.
If you're open all day, if your lights are on 24/7, and I can get cash from you, I just understand that it's probably going to cost me an arm.
No,
and a leg,
100%.
right? Like,
The 24-hour, man.
this isn't a business model that's set up to run 9 to
Yeah.
5 Monday through
the
Friday.
loan you need at 3 in the morning deserves 400%
Yeah.
interest.
It's the reason the ATM at the strip club is $30 to take cash out.
It's true. What's
It's
the
just-
highest ATM fee you've ever paid?
Probably $10.
Yeah, I think I paid 20 in Vegas.
Nick's
dude.
never taken cash out of the strip club there,
Yeah.
because there is not a strip club in the world where it's
That's not
$10.
even like it's like I'm talking about like the Cosmopolitan.
I haven't even
dude. It's
been to one
ridiculous.
in a decade and a half, and I
Yeah.
can remember I remember one night I had $200 in ATM fees.
Holy smokes.
I think I went back 5 times, and it was $40
I
a
looked
cop.
back in the day.
Dana, what is the highest that you've had?
Yeah,
Back in the
What is
day,
it, $5.99 at the casino? I think?
right. Yeah, you don't get shit.
I think
Even
that-
at $3.25 at the gas station's horse shit.
Yeah.
But you got to make money.
Yeah, but back in the day, I wanted that business model too. Is like you could go buy kits to go learn how to go place ATM machines at gas stations and everything else.
Oh yeah.
And
I still think concession stands, or not concessions, vending machines would be
machines?
awesome. It's just finding a place that actually
That's
has
the hard
traffic
part.
and
Yeah.
wants you.
One time, like a year and a half ago, a ATM at 7-Eleven gave me an extra $20, and I went up to the cashier and I was like, "Hey, this gave me too much money," and he's just like,
I don't know
not
that.
"We don't know that."
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I was like, "Okay."
I offered a guy the other day down in Seguin, Texas, $100 for the ice machine that was outside of his gas station. Didn't work because I just figured if you get one of those big ice machines up and running, that'd be worth some money.
I'm going to tell you right now.
And he was like, "It's not for sale." I was
There's
like, "All right."
there's an ice machine by our lake house, and we used it, and I spent like $50 on all these bags of ice, and it gives you that gallon water jug too. If you wanted that, I'm like, I want that. It's in front of a storage facility, and I want to buy that storage facility with this ice and water machine. And then I'm like, maybe I can start a snow cone company and just put that right there.
We'll do hot dogs too.
Yeah, I mean,
Ice,
while
and
you're
crushed
getting,
ice and flavored syrup has like zero overhead.
yes,
Seriously.
And you're essentially in like one of those little like tough sheds.
Yeah.
that you can buy at Home Depot in the middle of a
exactly.
fucking parking lot.
yeah. So while you're getting your ice and water, you can just go get a snow cone.
Well,
And-
the great thing about that is you're marketing to kids, and kids will badger their parents
Yeah.
into spending $4 on a snow cone
100%.
every time.
Or you're moving all your shit into storage and go cool off and get
With a little
nice, like-
tiger's blood snow cone.
So, I mean, look, I've looked at it all. But
I
you know who
believe it.
doesn't look at it all? Who's just dead focused on making sure that they can just give that hard shell protection, which is Darren Smith with Armadillo Home Warranty, armadillo.1/TORE, TORE. And I guess we have to do Daina.
No, we really don't.
Yeah, we
We've
have to.
talked about it
Because,
enough. I think they
I mean,
got
it's
it.
been going for 58 minutes. Daina Winn, HomewardDFW.com, the best property management company in DFW, rated by one of the magazines.
One of them.
I think it was the high school football magazine.
I know.
It's still a magazine. You don't have to say which one. You just say, look, you've probably seen us on billboards and TV.
And TVs.
I guarantee you if you say that, people will say they have seen your billboard.
They'd be like, oh, I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah.
I saw you before.
I've seen you down on 35.
Boys, we can make a show out of anything.
That's right.
Again.
Yeah.
Today was fun.
Yes. Thanks,
Appreciate
Daina.
it.
Daina Winn, HomewardDFW.com. And then next week we'll be almost 9 more shows to 200.
Just get us
out of
here,
Two and a half more months.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the Only Real Estate Podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the only real estate group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review. Please go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.